Hey guys, I'm back with another video, and instead of sharing with you guys everything I love about being a software engineer, today I'm here to dish out all the reasons why I hate being a software engineer. Okay, maybe hate is too strong of a word, but let's just say don't like very much. Number 1, you can literally spend the entire day fixing one line of code. Yes, I do mean the entire day, and yes, I do mean one line of code. This shouldn't happen too often, but it does. And yes, it can get very frustrating because usually you'll have no idea why it's happening, hence the reason why it takes so long to fix. So you pretty much just have to do trial and error until you find a solution. If you do get stuck, then my advice to you is to either Google your issue or ask a coworker. And if that doesn't help, then you could post your issue on Stack Overflow, GitHub, or one of the many forums out there. Number 2, wrist and joint pain. I'm not trying to sound like a drama queen or anything, but sometimes I really feel like I'm going to develop a repetitive strain injury or carpal tunnel. Sitting in the same position and typing all day doesn't sound like it could get very tiring, but it can. There can be negative consequences when you do the same motion over and over again for a long period of time. When my wrist and finger joints start to feel a little numb, then I know it's time to take a break. And it probably isn't due to just me being on my computer all day. I'm sure my phone and my Switch play a big part too. It is important to take breaks and stretch in between your day. It is also important to make sure you set up a good ergonomic workspace. Number 3, usually you're the one to blame. Since the software engineer is usually the one to create the product, they are also usually the one to blame when something breaks. Or at least it can feel that way. This actually shouldn't be the case, especially if you have a good Q&A team double-checking your work. But when you find out you're the one to accidentally misspell something and cause an entire site to crash, then you can't help but feel at fault. This could give someone anxiety, or you may just shrug it off. Number 4, you will literally sit in front of a screen all day. The only way to code currently, that I know of, is with your computer. So it's probably not a surprise to you guys that on a work day, you will probably have to sit in front of your computer all day long. I mean, this is kind of the norm now anyway, so it probably won't be too different from whatever you're used to. Just remember to take breaks throughout your day, and not just from working, but from staring at your screen. Any screen. My favorite type of break is to go on a stroll outside. Not only do you get a little bit of exercise, but also some vitamin D, which, by the way, is great for you. Number 5, at times, it can feel a bit lonely. Occasionally, you may feel like it's a bit hard to socialize at work because you won't have much in common with your coworkers, which definitely has happened to me before. Even though we are cordial with each other, it can still feel a bit lonely sometimes, just because there's no one to actually have a real conversation with. Maybe I'm asking for too much, but I feel like it's important you're close to your team, especially since you spend most of your time working with them. And also, there are still more men than women in the field. So if you're a female, it may feel a bit isolated sometimes, and especially if you're the only female on your team. Although, from my experience, all of my male coworkers have been super nice to me, so I can't complain too much about this. But I mean, some things are just so much easier to talk about with my girlfriends than guys. This is just coming from a female software engineer. Number 6, technical interviews. I'm horrible at them, so I hate them. I get really nervous and I blink out. I definitely need more practice in this area, but honestly, I secretly hope to never do them again. But one must always face its fears, right? I personally feel like an hour or a day of on-spot quizzing isn't a great way to evaluate someone's skill set. But I understand that people don't have all the time in the world, so most of the time we really don't have another choice. A great way to get past this is to just be prepared and try to get in as much practice as possible. Number 7, you may not get along with your teammates. If you're unlucky, then sometimes you may not work well with your teammates. This could become a pretty big issue, especially because of how closely you have to work with them. Sometimes there may be disagreements on the process or priority of things. Sometimes it may be because of how you want to implement something. I haven't really had this problem before, but I've heard plenty of stories. If this happens, I think the best solution is to just ask your higher ups if you can get moved to another team. Number 8, it can get stressful. Sometimes if there's a deadline or a release coming up and you haven't quite finished your work yet, you may start to feel a bit of pressure building up, especially if the rest of your team is counting on your finished product or feature. If you're in a hurry, you may start to get a bit irresponsible with your work, which just may cause more bugs and more stress. You never want to rush your work, so if you feel like you can't finish your feature or fix in a timely manner, then it's probably best to let your team know. Usually, they're pretty understanding if you let them know ahead of time. Number 9, you could lose your passion for coding. Sometimes, if you're not interested in the product that you're building, then you could lose your desire to continue coding. After my first few years of experience, I felt like I got a bit bored of coding. But one day I had a realization that it was probably due to the fact that I wasn't interested at all in the product that I was building. Once I had this epiphany, I vowed to always make sure I am passionate about the product that I'm creating. I now love what I'm working on, and I think I have a newfound love for coding too, because I get excited about work every day. After you get the first few years of experience and you get your foot in the door, I think it's important to also make sure you love the industry that you're in. Money and benefits are important, but if you don't love what you're building, then you can find yourself hating going to work. And that is definitely something I want to try to avoid. Number 10, you always have to be on your toes. If you watched my video, 10 reasons why I love being a software engineer, I mentioned in there that you'll never be bored because there's always something new to learn. If you're not a big fan of change, then this could be a problem. Since there's always a new hip language or concept taking over the last new hip language or concept, it is important to stay learning to stay relevant in the field. I personally like the challenge right now, but I may not feel the same way in a few years. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!